I'm an artist and I'm a designer. Pretty dangerous. And I'd be like, but check this out. I want to put it in the hands of every teenager. I say, why not? Anybody can write a cool travel story about like jumping out of an airplane and swimming with sharks. But it's like, if there's a guy who can make like writing about breakfast interesting, that guy's good, you know? Can you see it like you're traveling around the world? Can you make it interesting? Because I wanted to do more tutorials in less time. You know how YouTube in the settings, you can like play the video faster? Being like an abstract painter who just wants to like make a line, that's cool and that's good, but that's very different from like what we're doing when we're doing design work. And being versatile and fast is important. Repetition is like supremely important, I think, and that's where I go back to like.
All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Be Frank Podcast, episode 33. I can't believe this is already 33. So today we have a guest. He is a graphic designer. He is art director. Also, he works at the greatest advertising company called Frank, which is mine. But Steven Silva, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. And this guy right here, this camera.
Yeah.
What's up? Hey, thank you for having me.
So Steven, you know, like I know you do a lot of stuff more than graphic design stuff, but you know, people who doesn't know you, but you have a bunch of followers from like artists and all that kind of stuff. But you know, like you wanna like tell me about like introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Like I like to ask questions like, you know, if you're making your website, you probably need your website.
I should. I haven't made a website in like 5 or 6 years probably.
Yeah,
I have maybe a few years ago, but it could use an update.
But if you wanna have like a bio, what
Sure.
that bio will say?
I hate bios, so this is always like one of the toughest things to do. It reminds me of like when you had to go around a classroom and say like one fun fact about yourself. I never liked that.
What is one fact about yourself?
Well, I hate doing fun facts. That's a not so fun fact. I can tell you this. I love art. My background is as an artist. So I do make a distinction between design and art, but I would say that I'm both. I'm an artist and I'm a designer. And I try to be helpful relating those two spaces because art's fun. Like you said, I do know a lot of those guys, a lot of the street artists, guys doing graffiti, guys who paint for a living. And then I get to hang out with designers who are much more like advertising minded or are making packaging, doing websites, stuff like that. And sometimes those worlds like don't talk to each other and they definitely should, in my opinion. So, yeah.
I mean, you brought the beer. I mean, like we're at the office in the Frank, but you know, I mean, we drink at the middle of the day.
Hey, it's a Thursday afternoon. This is lively. I don't really know too much about these guys, but it's a very designery kind of can. I think it was done by a guy here in town. I want to say Brian Couchman. But
is this like Oklahoma?
It is. Yeah, both of these are. Huh. So I've never tried either one.
Maybe I'm
just gonna go for it.
I heard about. Oh, this is the Wheeler part.
Yes.
All
right. Cheers.
Let's cheer. Here you go. Big Friendly.
It's good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Big Friendly. There's not much hops to it.
Nice.
Prisoner Water East hops. Big Friendly. You know, I'm gonna put down the description if you want to sponsor me.
Nice.
But anyways,
Please.
So like how long have you been knowing each other?
You and me?
Yeah.
4 years, maybe.
4 years?
Close to that, I think. Something like that, yeah.
So like you started, like I remember one of our editor at the time brought you on and then like, hey, this guy, like he's like hip and he's cool and then like
I don't know about that.
you know, it's just like hey, like he's like, I don't know, he wanted to work in the office space, but he's kind of down to talk to you. That was kind of introduction, you know. What was like your state of mindset, because you were freelancing before, right?
Right, yeah.
And then like you were like working at a marketing agency, like apply. You didn't even kind of apply.
I just kind of showed up. Yeah, I showed up and then I was like, yes, I can do all this. And then I demonstrated that I could do it. I showed some work, but I there was never a formal application, which for me is the favorite way to get into something. Yeah, sometimes you need a formal application, but like I said, the more that you're able to like be in a community of people who are doing the things you're interested in, the more likely I feel like I wouldn't have known or shown up had it not been for, you know, my friend, our mutual contact Thorpe at that time. And so he brought me in and yeah, it just for me was the right time to switch. I think I was starting to hit a wall in freelance, which I think a lot of people go through. Unless you're doing like really, really niche work, I was just ready to try something else.
What do you mean the wall? Like,
Yeah. I mean, freelance can be feast or famine. It's very tough. There are times where, you're working a lot. There are times where you're working too much. And then there are times where you feel like you're not, paying the bills or you're not doing enough. And it's weird with freelance because I was hitting a point where I could always get work. I could consistently get work, but like the difference between me like not trying too hard and busting my ass was like not that much extra money a year. So I'm just like, well, why bust my ass? And it's like, I didn't like that mindset. It was just something that was like, I'm spending more time on the things that aren't interesting to me than I am, trying to improve my skills and get better. And I'm not learning from other people in this environment, especially when you get used to like working from isolation and not having a team, you start to go a little crazy. So it was just a good time.
I mean, like honestly, I always had a respect for you because like looking at Instagram, also like that new graphic designer Taylor was mentioning today too. Like, have you? Like he was like, have you looked at like Steven's like Instagram? I don't use it that much anymore, but I do use it. When I use it, it's completely separate from me trying to be a good designer, I guess, because I do that all day in here. And, with our team, we try to communicate with people from a design perspective when we're delivering design assets. But what he was talking to me about, and then also I always thought about is like your design has like a little bit of like not little bit, but like a poetic aspect of it. Like
thank you.
The words is nice, but also like illustration, like have like, if it's like a rap music or something like that, right? Like have like a double meaning and then like history, culture, pop culture references, like your art, your reference you do for the personal job. I think you have so many meaning, right? Like, can you kind of explain like what your thought processes are?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it just comes from the stuff that I like and am interested in, especially when I was like a little kid and you're very impressionable. So it's funny you mentioned like rap music because I remember like being on the bus in like 7th grade and somebody being like, yo, check this out. And of course it's like Eminem, it's like just white kids on a bus and just listening. So there's that. But like even before that, it was like Dr. Seuss and Shel Silverstein, these people who could like be very tricky with words.
Yeah.
And connecting that to like an illustration or a drawing of some kind. It was just the fun of like being imaginative. I think when I'm, a little kid, just hanging out, kicking it, moving around a lot, not always knowing what to do. It was really, really fun for me to like retreat into my mind. I would just rather be making up stories in my head, you know? And so I still draw that way. It's very like shoot from the hip. It's very loose, but I do try to, I'm not like an outwardly emotional person. So that's a good place for me to like just try to be expressive, I guess.
What do you mean?
So, yeah, I mean, I just don't, even something like this, it's like, hey, I'm going to be as open book as I can. But the feelings and stuff that I think really make art good, the ability to like express and communicate. Because at the end of the day, you like something, but the more you pick at it, you don't really know at a certain point why you like it. You just like it. And I think you get there through expressing feelings and trying to be relatable.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I was listening to the podcast today. I was listening about the comedian, right?
Yeah.
All the comedian has like almost like a dark, like they're alone.
I know.
They have a problem, but they're funny. But like they have those kind of problem to go through. Like they're going through stuff, right?
Sure.
Do you think like artist?
Yeah.
Like you're an artist and a graphic designer. Like, isn't that kind of like do they have to go through tough time to express the feelings? That's why they become a good artist?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I don't know that you have to go through tough times like materially. You don't have to be like broke and starving to death outside in like a gutter, but
or like a depression or whatever.
And maybe not even that, but I do think whatever your perspective is, you have to lean into that or you have to learn to embrace it. So even if you're like from the richest family and you've lived like the happiest life, at some point you have to be like, cool, this is how I see that experience. You still have to try to interpret it. So I think there's always some kind of like internal mental journey, I guess, that you go through. But, it's half that and then it's half just trying to get good at, making what you're making and being able to make it feel the way you want it to feel. I've always been like a little more I don't want to say I'm like a hater, but like stuff that's very abstract to the point of being like, it's just a brush stroke or something on a wall. It's like that can be cool, but it's depends on the context.
So for you, whenever you're struggling, your art better, or like when you're happy, your art better?
I mean, I hate this for myself, but I think when I'm struggling, it is better.
Really?
And the only reason is because I think I'm paying more attention to it because I need it. It's like an escape, you know, or it's like something that I can do. Not even an escape. It's just something that I can do to take the way that I'm feeling and like work it out.
So is that personal? The project, like you're doing for like a client, like a logo stuff, right? Is that like is that like a different brand you use, or like?
I think a lot of the steps are the same. So for instance, it's like if I'm making something and I've been sad, you know, and it's like, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. I'm crying my eyes out. I'm not going to be doing that from like the beginning of a drawing to the end. Yeah. At some point, you're
Let's
just
get closer to that.
Okay. At some point, you're just you're lost in it. You're just trying to make it good. And at that point, you're kind of zoned out. You know, you're just like, you're working, you're doing whatever. It's more like meditative, I would say, than it is super emotional.
Yeah.
But on the design side, there is always, I try to bring some kind of emotion or feeling into it, you know, because I think that's the part that's relatable for the client. I mean, we could make the logo look a million different ways, but if they don't believe in it, if they don't feel like it represents them, it really doesn't matter how good it looks, I guess. Yeah.
So like whenever I'm like always curious because like because I take photos and videos and all that kind of stuff like a lot of times, and then like, you know, I'm always fascinated what you guys come up with like a logo stuff, right? Because then like you have like styles and all that kind of stuff, like you know, your desktop is like amazing.
It's clean. It looks good now, by the way. It's cleaned up. Yeah, you could not even see my desktop wallpaper for probably a few months there.
Yeah, but like let's see, like so, like for example, let's talk about like what's your favorite, like most favorite logo you ever made?
Oh, that's tough, super tough. I think it changes. There are some that I remember that I really like. I always enjoy it if I can do something that feels kind of in that old school mascot space. I really love like old characters. I think when I draw, I come from like a character perspective. So I've never been like a big painting, you know, landscapes kind of guy. And that stuff's very impressive as well. But my background's been watching cartoons, drawing little characters, stuff like that. And so there are a few. There's one that I did for a guy who makes studio beats. He's a drummer and he records beats for sale and also does like recording for other artists. We called that War Drums. His last name was Warren. And that was really fun. I was thinking about like the little drummer boy, you know, marching with all the troops. And so I ended up making this like little kid smirking, you know, playing the drums, kind of walking character. And we did some really, really fun stuff with that. I think that one turned out great. One that I like that I still see all the time is for the rapper in town, JB. He did a project called Fragile and Cruel. And he always is really good about asking different artists to work on stuff. And so I knew I wanted to do something that was like a track star. He just wanted like a simple like college vibes kind of hoodie. And so I drew this like skeleton winged foot. It looks like the college track logo, except instead of a sneaker, it's a skeleton foot.
Yeah.
And that one was kind of tough to get right because there's all these little bones. It's like, which ones can I leave out and still make it look real or look right? And that was very simple. We didn't do a ton of other stuff with it, but we slapped it on like some different hoodies. And I like that one because it's been like 4 or 5 years and I still see people around town wearing that everywhere. Probably like once a week I see one of those, which is
that the best
cool.
feeling you have to like while you're doing the job, like as a like artist, like you see your stuff in the public, or like whenever you making the process and then like, oh, I made this happen, or like a client sees it, say, this is the best thing. Like what makes you the happiest?
That's a really tough question. I don't know that it's ever the same thing for me every time. I think what's nice when you see your work like in public if you like the work that you made already, like if you like it, and then because there's some stuff that I've made that I'm like, whatever, it's fine. It's not the best. It's not the worst. And then I see that stuff and then I'm like, oh, I wish I had spent more time. Like I could have spent more time, or I did something a little bit differently with this and it's too late to change it or whatever. But the stuff that I like that is out there, it's nice when other people like it because it's like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. Like I had an idea that other people can see it too. And that feels really good. But yeah, just the problem solving in general. Once I feel like I have something, a concept that's like, okay, this can work. This is cool. That's probably the moment, like right before that is probably the most satisfying.
What do you mean the moment before?
Well, like the lead up. It's like fun to be on the rise. Like you're figuring it out. Once you feel like, once it clicks in your head, that's when it feels good. You still have to go do the work and make it and deliver it. And that can be a pretty time consuming or difficult process, but the you know, when it makes sense in your brain, even if you can't show everyone yet, that's a good feeling. So
I mean, like so those kind of like you're saying, like whenever you're doing the freelance stuff, right? And then like you didn't want to hustle, I guess. I can't imagine Steven, you becoming like a salesperson or like a hustling, I guess, because you're always like chill, down to earth, you know what I mean? Like, what was like, how are you getting a job?
I mean, honestly, it's the same way that I'm, you know, the same way that I got a job here. It's like, I'm very, very insistent with myself. And if younger designers ask me, I tell them the same things. Like, you can't just make something in your room and then be like, this is so good. Why is no one knocking on my door to tell me how good this is? It's like, if you have any other interests or any other hobbies or there's anything else you like to do, you should be taking like your design or your art into that space. So like if you like to rock climb, design stuff for your rock climber friends. If your friends are in bands, make their flyers, make their shirts. You should just be doing that.
Like, so like you just reach out to the friend and then you just make it for free first time? Or?
Yeah, or for very cheap or for trading something. And, you know, that's how I started out. I actually started out in the very beginning. I was always like drawing in the back of class, you know, doodling, whatever. And I was living in Boston at the time and everything's expensive. And so I had 2 part-time jobs, but I had tons of free time because they were not very like mentally demanding. I would work a little bit here, a little bit there. And then in this extra time, I was like, oh, I bet I can learn all the Adobe software. How hard can it be? So I'm just watching YouTube tutorials. And then when it would come up, when I would see like opportunities to do it, either somebody I know would be talking about some idea they have and they'd be like, you know, I'm thinking about, oh, let me make you a logo. I'll just do it for $100. And I was doing it for so cheap. I would do, and they were not good for the most part, but I would just do work for like, friends, bands, small businesses, family members. I could get them to throw me $100 and I would make something for them. And after doing that for a little bit, I was getting better. And so I was like, you know what, let me jack my prices all the way to like $300 or something. Still so cheap. And just getting in the pattern of doing that and then coming to Oklahoma City and like falling in with a lot of the art community. We would host like drink and draws. We would do, you know, they used to do these creative events before COVID where they'd bring in like famous designers from other parts of the country and they'd do these conferences. I would always go. I would always ask questions. I would always try to introduce myself to as many people as possible and just say, not even in like a networking way. Like you said, it's hard for me to be like a salesy, I guess. And so I will just come up and be like, hey, what's up? I'm stupid. I don't really know anything, but you know, you seem like you know, so you tell me. And, you know, people were always more than happy to give advice. And so I owe a lot of it to like other people, but yeah, just being in those spaces, doing that work eventually put me on like a referral path where I would do a good job and then someone would say, oh, go talk to this guy. Like so I was getting emails and phone calls just probably a couple times a week. I would be getting like new leads.
So like it's kind of like it's so funny to me, like whenever you're starting out, like you do freelance or any business, you have to like hustle. Then there's certain point of your life, like you don't really have to do it. I guess like you take as much as like network that they will just start calling you, like you're like known from those community. So you getting job. And then I think from my kind of things is like it hit that kind of wall, right? Then like, okay, I gotta build it. Is like, okay, hiring employees or start doing a marketing campaign, and then grow like outside of your word of mouth situation. So it's kind of funny how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also important because you can get trapped in like the word of mouth thing.
Yeah.
Because it's not really like you're not out in front of the story telling people,
right,
this is how I want to be approached. This is how I want to be contacted. So I'm getting all these like DMs that are just like, let's work, bro, fire emojis. And I'm like, all right, this guy's not serious. I'll get phone calls. Somebody's like, can you do this for negative money? And it's like, probably not, you know? So that would happen all the time. And so it can kind of trap you. And I mean, that was, again, part of the reason I was ready to get out of that for a little bit. It's one of those things, you know, you could always go back to with more experience if that's something you want to do. But for me, I was like, you know, that I didn't have the free time to like be really experimental. Like the job wouldn't be worth it. So now my design is like stagnating. I'm just making the same thing over and over again, or like the same level of quality, because that's what people are paying for. And I need to get something done quickly. They're not going to sit there and be like, why don't you try stuff out, go crazy? If it doesn't work, we'll pay you anyway. Nobody's saying that, you know, and it's like, you have to deliver something that meets their expectations. And so, yeah, you know, I think that's why some people like college, although I did not go to design school, but you can be experimental, you can try stuff out and see what works and what doesn't, you know, in an environment where you're not having to like work to live, like to make money to eat, you know, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it can be trapping, and getting out of it is different for everybody. But for me, it was, let me get like with a team, and then we'll see what works.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that's like a biggest challenge that we're facing right now, right? It's just like, okay, because I look at your design, I look at our design team, and then I look at like, for example, like some like a cool national beer company, whatever.
Sure.
Like, we could have done that.
Yeah.
We could have done so much better. And then they're getting like millions of dollars. Like, for example, like Oklahoma rebranding, for example.
Right.
Like,
the state,
we could have done it so much better.
Sure.
Like, I'm like, then they spent, I think, like $2 million or something like that for the rebranding. Man, I wish I had that $2 million.
I know, yeah, you and me both,
And then Oklahoma will probably be happier, you know?
Right, totally.
So, like, what do you think that, like, I mean, is that just a network, you think?
I think it's scale. Like, part of it is people know at a certain size in this industry that you're not really just paying for design. You know, because we talk about this with our own clients. It's like, yeah, we're more expensive than Fiverr, for instance. It doesn't mean that there are only garbage designers on Fiverr. Some of them are pretty good, but at a certain point, you're also paying for like the support, the taste, and the guidance, the strategy, all that stuff that I don't think you can separate. And then at even another point, it's like the same thing that we would try to give our clients in terms of like soft brand value. That's what people pay for at these bigger, you know, agencies, or this agency always works with local governments, so they get hired for that job. And you know, this agency's worked with all these multimedia companies. They're based in LA or they're based in New York, and so people are ready to spend the money. They have the expectation built in, and they come here, and Oklahoma City is small, you know, and they're ready to challenge us trying to take that step up. I think that's the hardest thing in general is like, you know, when I'm freelancing and I'm down here, to go from here to here is so hard. Yeah. And then, you know, we're here and we want to go up one more level. You know, we can keep crushing work at this level, but going up is so difficult. Yeah. It's so tough to like change where you're at. And so I think we have a path to do that. I think I understand more than I ever have before in my career about how to do that. Yeah. You know, I mean, just to keep rambling about this, I remember when we were sitting in on like a larger pitch, we had an opportunity to pitch a pretty big account together, and it's different. Because it's different than sitting across from like 3 small business owners. Yeah. You know, when you have 10 or 12 stakeholders. What was
going through in your head? What did you enjoy it?
I felt like I was like, okay, this is what this is. I wanted to enjoy it more than I did. I think I was pretty tired and pretty caffeinated and like kind of out of my mind, but also
we're like working like
the night before.
Yeah.
And that's part of it is like, you know, when you're a small agency and, you know, you don't have the numbers, some of the companies that are going to pitch for accounts like they have 50 people all working, you know, to create space for 10 people to solely focus on that project. You know, we're doing that with 5 people and we're doing it with, you know, for all of our other clients too. Yeah. And so I think it's just, I felt good about what we did. I thought we did a solid job, and it was an honor to even be in the room. But it was also one of those things where I was like, okay, I see that this is a step up. It's a level up, because also for a lot of those meetings and those types of people, again, the design work takes a backseat to like the numbers, the sales. So you can make something that looks pretty, but, and we try to do this for every client. We can give you something that looks pretty, but we also need to give you something that works, and we need to be able to show you that it's going to work and say like, here's how much money you used to make, here's how much money you're going to make, because that's ultimately what people are like really, really locked in on. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, the being freelancer or being like agency and the same thing as a, like a creative, right? Like it's kind of like the toughest thing is to get paid.
Yeah.
Have you seen like recently I saw an Instagram post of like the guy who posted like a bunch of like a photo he took, and then I learned this lesson. He put the client's name, how much he's owed, say you still owe me this much, this, and he posted it, and then like some people get screwed, like you know.
Yeah,
that.
For
like,
sure. Yeah.
It's like, what do you think about that? Like people posting that stuff, but also like, have you ever had that problem?
Yeah, I did one time, and it was for like almost no money. So I just let it go and chalked it up to like a hard lesson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm fine with people throwing it out there. I know artists in town, sign painters. I know a guy who painted a huge mural. I won't say which one, so that way we don't have to talk shit later. But he got brought into a job to help a guy paint, a massive wall,
really?
Massive space. And
did you tell me after this podcast?
Yeah, I'll tell you after this. Yeah. And I don't know, there's probably going to be like 1 million views on this one. So I just want to be, but after that, yeah, he got stiffed. The guy never paid him. And so he like asked him 2 or 3 times, I don't know. And then eventually just blasted on social media and was like, hey, pay me, bro, you know?
Really?
And so everybody kind of got after him, and then he did eventually.
He did get paid?
He did get paid, yeah, but he had to like kind of drag the other guy's reputation. And so hey, if it helps you get paid, I get it. I don't know what's up with people not paying for things in principle, but also on the other side, for me starting out, I had no contract. I was like not that professional. I was just like, yeah, we can do it, you know, verbal handshake. And then I wouldn't even like get payment up front. I would just do whatever. I remember it was for like a car detailing place. I don't even remember the name. This was years ago, but we did a couple things for them, and they had like a rear view mirror hanger, you know, something that's like after you get it, it's like, cool, thanks for shopping with us. Here are other services, that type of thing. And so I designed this and laid it out. I think I was charging like $300 or $400, and they just never paid me. They stiffed me. And so I was like, all right, I guess I won't do that again. So now, unless I like know you personally, and even then it would probably be smart to like have a contract or have like money in hand up front. Now, if somebody comes to me through like a friend of a friend, sometimes I'll still be like, all right, you want to shoot me half? I'll get started, and then you can just pay me the rest when I'm done, whatever. Yeah. I'll still do stuff like that sometimes.
But do you agree
I try not
people
to.
Like posting that stuff on social media?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, look, it's a deal, right? If you don't hold up your end of the bargain, why should I hold up mine? I mean, on the one hand, I can see why you'd be concerned. Like, okay, people are going to be afraid to work with me because I'm airing out dirty laundry. It's like, just pay me, and that wouldn't happen, you know? Yeah. So I have I'll never probably take the side of companies that stiff people on payment. I just feel like in general, you know that if you're recruiting services, there's going to be a cost attached.
Yeah.
Every business.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things that you do what you have to do to kind of protect yourself. And hopefully, though, it doesn't begin and end with just posting that stuff. I do think, you know, if you're a creative person, a musician, a designer, an artist, illustrator, whatever, and somebody wants what you're doing, that should be a good thing, right? Like you take it as a compliment, whatever, but people will just try to like grab it and own it. They're like, oh, you like doing this. You do it for fun. You love it. So just make me a million options real quick and I'll buy you dinner or something. It's like, I don't know if this is a fair trade. So I think you have to kind of start to learn that what you're doing is valuable, or that maybe it could be valuable. And it is on you to like learn to protect yourself. You don't want to just be blasting people on social media and then not change the way you're doing business after that, So
would you like, so like we have been like changing to like more of like hourly business, right?
Yeah.
Rather than project pricing.
Yeah.
So like you hated the idea, I remember.
Yeah.
Like doing the hourly stuff.
I still internally hate it, but I think it's really good for the customer.
Okay, tell me about that. Why you hate it?
I think it's hard for me because I know
you're fast.
I'm fast, but I also know like, when you're like in the kitchen seeing how the soup is made, you can't break that down into an hourly way that's going to make sense to every client.
Yeah.
So if something takes 8 hours to do, let's say, it might be like 3 hours of what looks like no work because I'm just sitting there, I'm like thinking, doodling, trying something out, and it's not good. And everything I make is trash. And then of all the, the garbage, I'm like, all right, maybe this garbage could be a little bit less garbage. So I work on that for 2 hours. It goes 2 different directions and it's still not good. And then in the last hour, all of a sudden it looks great, So it's like, there's never a specific road. I have a process that I take every time. It's not like we're sitting around waiting for like lightning to strike, and have inspiration, but you can't always account for like exactly how the creative process will go, but you just know that if you keep working on it, you can get it in this amount of time.
But how were you like pricing your like a freelance gig?
I was just doing it project based. So I would be like, cool, I'm going to charge at least this much. And then after a while, I would just raise that price.
Was that like this much because like, oh, it's going to take me this day, or like, oh, this is what they will pay willingly?
It was a little bit of both. I mean, so I would start out with, what are other people charging, And so in the very beginning for me, that was like, what are people on Fiverr charging? That's kind of what I'm basing it on. And then eventually it became like people in town. It became, what other businesses are charging. And on some jobs you're making money and on some jobs you're losing money because it takes longer. Other things you crush in a day and you're like, cool, now I'm just chilling. So those things are nice, but yeah, it's inconsistent. And so you're just trying to wrap that into something that makes sense and that they can account for. But I have had clients straight up who are bigger clients and I charge them more for the same work. And I mean, I'll just do that forever. Like I have friends who they're in a band. I think it's cool. I'm going to make them, a t-shirt, a flyer, and I might not charge them anything. I might ask them to like pick up a 6-pack or something and that's it. I might do the same exact work for a big client and I'm going to charge a lot. Yeah. And so, and the reason for that for me personally is because it's hard to like switch off the effort. It's hard to be like, I'm not getting paid a lot, so let me just do a bad job. Yeah. Like I'm always going to approach it and think, how can I make this look good?
I mean, you got to think about like, even you do it for free.
Right.
Or either you do it for $10,000.
Right.
You put it out, your work, nobody else other than you will know the price of the art.
Right.
So if you're doing free work for like $100 effort, people will assume you do $100 work.
Right.
I think that's why you are successful. That like everybody respects you and all that kind of stuff. So I respect that.
Thank you. I mean, it's also whether you want to do it. Like I wouldn't do work that I'm not that interested in for free. If I definitely don't want to do it, it's going to cost more.
Yeah.
And so something has to give in those situations too. And we talk about it. Everybody knows like the good, fast, cheap, like triangle.
Yeah.
Like you can have two of those things. So when I'm doing something for cheap for a friend, I'm like, cool, I can do this cheap and I can make it look good. You're just going to get it whenever I get to it. Yeah. Like whenever I want to do it, that's when you're going to get it. And most people are like, cool. They understand that. And if somebody's like, well, I need it next week, actually, I'm like, I'm going to need to get paid a lot more, actually. So I just let them know it's like something's got to give. You can't have it all. So,
but so like time and efficiency and stuff, right? But it's like a technology. I mean, you are so fast.
Thanks.
Like,
some things I'm
yeah.
definitely, I mean, inside of Illustrator, I think I'm really, really fast. And that used to blow me away. The first person that I like, apart from just looking on YouTube, that I was like learning Illustrator from, Dusty Gilpin, great artist in town. He mostly paints murals and does sign painting and stuff like that now. But I used to watch him in Illustrator, and he could use just the trackpad, which is what I do 90% of the time now. And I was like, bro, how are you doing that? You're so fast. How are you not using a mouse? And Taylor asked me like a week ago, another designer here was like, why do you never use a mouse? I was like, well, because I don't have one with me most of the time. That's the only reason. And so, yeah, I mean, in certain software, being fast is valuable. Like it
is.
Yeah.
I mean, like whenever we have a meeting, and then like we're doing like a wireframe and website, like it's like whenever I'm talking to you, it's like almost gets done, you know? It's like fascinating to me. But because like I got like too, I guess, spoiled working with you. So I'm working with like some new designer and say, hey, I want you to pull up the Illustrator. Okay, I'm gonna talk it through. So just do it. And then I'm just like, what?
Right.
This is not done.
No, for sure. I mean, that's kind of the experience, and kind of get what you pay for. So, it's nice to be fast. I think like,
how did you get fast?
I mean, again, just practicing on YouTube all the time. When I started out,
practicing on YouTube,
like watching YouTube tutorials and then just trying them out, copying them. And so
they'll show you how to get fast.
No, but I was doing so many and learning. I would always go and like look up the keyboard shortcuts and stuff like that. And then what I would do is, because I wanted to do more tutorials in less time. You know how YouTube in the settings, you can like play the video faster.
Yes.
So I would put the video on like 1.5 or 2 times speed. And so I'm just letting a guy who sounds like a chipmunk the whole time. And then I'm like trying to keep up. And so I would do that as like a way to just like do more tutorials in a night. Because when I started out, I was like living in Boston, and I would just I had like I worked at a gym where I just was like front desk in the morning. So I'd work fucking early, like 5 a.m. I would stop at like noon or something. And then a few days a week, I worked for this like gardening company. So I was like outside, digging in the dirt, whatever. It's fun. And then when I stopped, I would but those jobs both ended by like 5 or 6 p.m. every day, at the latest. And so I would have all night to just like, I didn't know a lot of people yet. I would just post up, and I would be like, okay, if I watch it, a 30-minute video at 1 time speed, I can watch it in 30 minutes. If I watch it at 2 times speed, I can do it in 15, and I can do 4 of them in an hour, or something. So I would try to do that and just see if I could keep up. And I mean, it took time. It took time to like get to that, but yeah, that's how I would.
So you just repetition.
Yeah, for sure. Repetition is like supremely important, I think. And that's where I go back to like being like an abstract painter who just wants to like make a line. That's cool and that's good, but that's very different from like what we're doing when we're doing design work. And being versatile and fast is important. And so you have like your taste that guides you. Like you look at things, you're like, this is cool, or you've called it, I know, like having the eye for things.
Yeah.
But on the other side, you have to have the execution and just like get your chops up. And I think the only way to do that is like, you have to just do it. Like you just have to make a lot of stuff. You have to do a lot of tutorials, and it doesn't always have to be good. You're still getting practice.
Do you think like traveling around the world is like helps your artistic eyes?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, it's also a luxury. I think there's like a cruelty to saying it's like necessary, because not everybody can afford it, right? Or not everybody has the time to do it. And so while it can be insightful, so can anything that's around you. And that's where like going back to the art side of it and being able to like bring your own perspective to something is really important, because anybody can write a cool travel story about like jumping out of an airplane and swimming with sharks. But it's like, if there's a guy who can make like writing about breakfast interesting, that guy's good, So I think that's more important, is like, can you see the mundane, like everything that you see, can you see it like you're traveling around the world? Can you make it interesting? I think that's more important. Yeah.
You think about that when you travel?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to travel. I moved a lot. My family's not all from here. Some of my family's from overseas. And so it's like, it can definitely give you that, I never thought of it that way experience. And I think that's really, really valuable. But
Like what? Give me an example.
yeah, I mean, I remember the first time, well, there's like two parts. So the first time I went to, my family's Portuguese. First time I went to Portugal, I was like 16. And over there, it's like very normal to drink wine with dinner or whatever, even at that age. So I remember
Like what age?
16.
Oh, okay.
I was like 16.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm like drinking wine and I'm like, yeah, this rules. This is awesome. I was like, this is like kind of spicy, but I really like it. So I'm having fun. And I'm like, wow, people just eat dinner like this. It's like 10 o'clock at night. They eat in very dim lighting. They make jokes like we eat in dim lighting because we don't want to, and no one has to know who grabs the last roll or the last whatever. So it's like a very like food culture. It's great. And there's other little things like the washers like for laundry are small. They're so small compared to like here where they're huge,
Yeah, humongous.
Yeah. And so I don't know if Japan is like things like that as well, but it's stuff that you maybe wouldn't think of. You don't think about it, when you're over here. You're just like, this is how life is everywhere probably.
Yeah.
And so if you're not reading books or articles or just spending time observing things, it can be like easy to forget. So traveling is like a nice, like kind of like a reset button.
Yeah, reset. And then I guess when you go somewhere else and come back, give you a different perspective and then like appreciate what you have and what you don't have.
Yeah.
And then like, for example, in Japan, drinking age, for example, it's 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
However, also driver's license in Japan, you can get 18.
Mm-hmm.
I think Americans should not get driver's license
I agree,
at 16.
100%. It's insane. I know I've said this before, but like if you invented cars today and you're like, I have an awesome idea. I'm going to make this machine. It's going to be 2 tons. We're going to make sure they can go at least 70, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You'd be like, that sounds pretty dangerous. And I'd be like, but check this out. I want to put it in the hands of every teenager. You'd be like, no, that's insane. It's like, but we're just used to it because it's been that way, for so long. So yeah, I agree. I mean, it's crazy. Like
the American driving school is super easy.
Yeah. I mean, I did mine. I had to do like a CD, like ROM, like put it in the computer and like go through a test. Yeah. And then I had to show up and do like a driving test. Yeah. And that was like it.
And it's only cost like $300.
Yeah.
$200, something like that.
It's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
And a 16-year-old can get it, right?
Yeah.
In Japan, like you have to pay like $3,000, $6,000 to go to driving school. Yeah. And it takes like 3 to 6 months in that school. Yeah. And then like a test is super hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah,
and then also you have to be 18.
Yeah.
So like I'm pretty sure like a lot of Americans say Japanese can't drive. Yeah. But I think we can drive for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things.
But like the thing is, I did take American driver's
license. That's all. That explains a lot. No. But that's why it's like you're so used to seeing it just this one way that I think there's like I don't know. This is like, I don't know if it's a philosophy or psychology class. I don't know where they do this, but it's like 101, like the basics. They talk about like the fallacies, like the logical fallacies. Yeah. One of the ones that we're talking about, I think it's called status quo bias. And that's where like, things are the status quo. It's what you're used to. Yeah. And so if you're used to it, you're just like, that's good. Yeah. That's how it's supposed to be. But you're not like I said, you have to like look at it from that new perspective. Like, what if you were an alien from outer space and you saw people driving? Or what if they just invented cars yesterday? It would be very controversial. Yeah. But we've had them for 100 years and they've changed a little bit and a little bit and a little bit.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So you're just like, yeah, this is normal.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, like a tobacco smoking age from like 18 to 21 now or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I guess like a driving age could be changed.
Or like you mentioned like tobacco, it's like, or drinking. It's like these things have been around and part of culture for so long. So thinking about it from like an advertising or design perspective, it's like they have beer commercials that are like as American as apple pie. It's like in the Super Bowl. Yeah. But something like, cannabis or, heroin, if you want to go all the way to something extreme, it's like, those are drugs and they all get lumped together. It's like, those are drugs, but alcohol is not a drug. It's like a cool social thing.
That
right?
is true, yeah.
It's just because that's the way we're used to seeing it for so long.
And also,
you know?
I think it's like difference between American commercial in the beer company. I don't know. Like, I think but like
we talked about
liquor,
it. Yeah.
whiskey, beer, like on the commercial, they can't drink.
Yeah, they're just having a good time.
Yeah, you can't like.
Yeah.
This is as much as you can
Yeah,
go,
just-
right?
yeah.
But if you drink, you can put it on the TV.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But in Japan, Ichiro, like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
baseball
yeah,
player. I mean, he's drinking that beer, like
Just chugging it, tipping it back. That's awesome.
And then like this is
awesome.
the fucking best beer,
Yeah, that rules.
I mean, that's how in Japan is. But
Yeah.
like if you're talking about smoking weed,
Right.
like in Japan, like it would be like you're doing like heroin or something.
Right,
like
exactly. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's just like super. And then also it's funny to me, like in Japan, like there is a vending machine
Yeah,
sells beer.
yeah,
So anybody can kind of buy a beer.
yeah, yeah.
And I think whenever I was 16, I think they changed to like you have to scan the ID,
Sure.
but like scanning ID at the vending machine.
Yeah. It's so basic. It's like such a easy. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm about to do something that I could then like get in a car and run over like a family of 4. You know what I mean? Like here, especially with like all the crazy drivers, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's just one of those things that your perspective is really shaped by. I mean, I could go on and on about this because it's such a big part of like what we have to think about every day. But like your perspective is so shaped by like the traditions.
And the culture.
It's like being a fish. Yeah, exactly. It's like, like a fish can't see the water that it's in.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. Like,
Do you think Montana people is like that?
yeah, probably.
You
yeah.
know that reason I said is
Yeah.
Montana banned the TikTok. Did you know
Yeah.
that?
No,
So they banned the TikTok.
that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So like what, you just cross the border and it's like, you can't open it or what?
So I don't really know, but
Yeah.
like, like what's the rule? But like, I guess Chinese corporation owns a TikTok.
I knew that. Yeah.
So they're trying to ban it. So the state by state has a different law. So TikTok in Montana is banned. I think
Yeah.
they can't download in the new user cannot download TikTok in Montana anymore.
That's crazy.
But I think the people who have a TikTok, I don't think business can't use it,
Gotcha. Can't advertise on there.
can advertise it,
Yeah.
but can I go to Montana use a TikTok? I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Sounds
I
like
don't
we
know.
need to test it out. Go to Montana. That's crazy. I mean, it's one of those things that why not? Why not just try out some different stuff and see what happens? I
Yeah.
think that is like somewhat healthy to do and it's somewhat refreshing. I mean, it's tough because we're advertisers. Like our goal is to get companies a lot of times in front of more people
Yeah.
and to help stuff stand out from
Yeah.
the crowd. But there is like obviously a dark side of that where you have a bunch of computer engineers, you have a bunch of advertisers, you have all of these people sitting like on the other side of your screen trying to like get you to stay on your phone or get
Yeah.
you to keep looking at, a website or whatever. And so, yeah, I think try it out, mix it up.
Yeah.
Why not?
So as far as
Yeah.
social media goes,
Yeah.
as a graphic designer, right? Like
Yeah.
there is a couple different people. The people who post their work on their personal page,
Right.
but also like they're like a mixture of like people who post like personal stuff, sometimes work but not much work, but they're good designer.
Mm-hmm.
Like what do you have any like
Yeah.
opinion about graphic designer
Yeah.
and social media?
It's weird because I think the thing that's the hardest for me about social media is the frequency. I think the fact that the expectation is that you're posting a lot, it makes it tough because it replaces the idea of posting when you have something that's quality or something you really want to share with. I just need to post to keep posting.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably bad across the board, but I've learned a ton from looking at people's work on social media. And I love the people who do like the tutorials on Reels. There's some really, really useful, like 60-second little tips and tricks out there. And so, I mean, that stuff is great and it's really, really valuable. The only thing that makes it tough for me is there's like this old, advertising saying, and I can't remember who said it first. There's a book. I want to say it's called Entertaining Ourselves to Death. Marshall McLuhan. It might have been him. It might have been this other advertising guy, Ogilvy. I don't remember. But the message is like the medium is the message, which I like, which is like wherever you see something and read it or like observe it, you can't separate that from like where you're seeing it. So like for video, there's a big difference between like a video on your phone, on TikTok, and like a commercial on TV still. And I know you've said this to clients. It's like TV is still the most trustworthy. And it's just because if you're on TV, somebody's like, I can't get on TV, so it must be important. It must be good. And it's like, I think about it a lot. Like I could write like the most beautiful, important statement of the 21st century, and I could post it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And there would be people who are like, this is fucking dumb. You're stupid. Why would you write this? No matter what, right? And so you could take the exact same statement word for word, but have it come out in like a book that's being promoted by, publishing houses and NPR, and they have it set up at the bookstores, on the little table in the front. And people be like, wow, that's so important and profound. So it's like where it is, you can't escape that. So for me, like being like, if you're using social media to try to like win or like make a point, I think it's pretty tough to do. I don't love that. Yeah.
That's why you don't post social media too much.
I just get, I get tired of it. Yeah. I mean.
And also like we're doing the, team challenge, but you don't
I know.
Yeah,
I know. Well, hey, listen, I'm busy. All those other guys, they have plenty of time. So no. But no, it is something I'm also just not that good at. I would like to be better probably at that I think the type of content that I would want to make now, if I was going to post regularly, is like not the type of content I have. So there's like a learning period. I would love to do more like tutorial style videos because that's what that's what I like to watch. Yeah. But I think it would take me a while to make something that
you'd be proud of.
Yeah.
But something you gotta start with something you're good enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%. No, you're right. It's just it's a comfort thing. I think and I'm just like, I gotta just try it at some point. But that's the stuff that I like. Like I said, I don't know. I get the case studies are nice. Seeing people's art is nice, but there's a million of those things in a row.
Right.
And I just get tired of it. So the information that really helps me is the stuff that either makes me laugh or the stuff that I learned something from. And so that's just what I like personally.
Also like there's like a little bit of a timely subject, but a little bit of a touchy subject, right? It's like working from home, right?
Sure.
Like a lot of people after COVID, I was kind of like not big fan of like people from work from home. You're the probably like only one like I truly trust to work from home. Sure. And then like you being great. And then like, I've been very happy and I very appreciative what you do for us. And then you work from home. But like, what do you think about people work from home, but taking away the working from home, like capability, I guess? Like, do you think that's like not good? Or like, what do you think about like using work from home as like a reward, or do you think it should be just a policy for all people? Like,
yeah, it's tough because, it's hard to frame it as a reward. Some people work better that way, and some don't. And so, if you don't know which kind of person you are, I think the healthiest thing is probably a balance of both. Even if you're a work from home person and you feel like you're not effective all the time, there are days that I'm working from home that I'm still going to come up here 2-3 hours a day just so I'm interacting, because yes, I can use Slack. Yes, I can use, Zoom or Google or whatever to have video conferencing, but there's still something valuable about giving attention and your time to somebody in person, I think. And even on the days when I'm not in here, there's times where, I'll work for 3 or 4 hours, wake up early, start working, and then I'll start to, drag and I'm like getting tired or whatever. And so then I will get up, I'll walk my dog and then get out of the house. I'll go to like a coffee shop because I'm less likely to like fall asleep or like just be, you know, browsing shit on my phone or whatever. If I'm in public, you get that social pressure of like, I'm supposed to be doing something.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll do that as like a way. So for me, I'm a big, like, I know about myself and how I work at this point that like changing my environment every so often helps me a lot. You know, if I'm in the office for 8 hours, that's really hard for me also.
Yeah.
But coming in for 3 or 4 hours, working from home for 3 or 4 hours, that's all really, really, you know, I'm working the whole time, which is nice. So
I mean, like, like I understand that, but also like I guess like what I was trying to ask is like from like a manager's perspective, right? And the manager's perspective, you have your employee, you have your team working from home, and then they're not like delivering, right?
Yeah.
And then like, you like you said, like either some people are good at working from home, some people suck, and like some people take advantage.
Yeah.
As a manager, as a boss, like say, hey, you suck at working from home, like, but like those people will probably get offended, right?
Sure.
Like what's a good policy or what's a good things to do to resolve that issue?
Yeah, I don't know if I have like a perfect answer for this, but I do think it's all about, at the end of the day, it's all about buckets, right? It's like you're either hitting shots or you're not. Like the narrative will change. It's like you're going to go out, you work hard, hopefully to get good at what you do.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to be, you know, good at your craft. And then you don't always do a good job. That's just part of it. Like sometimes I make stuff and I'm like, this is mediocre, but that's fine. That's all I had time to make. You know, that's all that the budget allows. So that's what's going to go out.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a mediocre job, but it happens.
Yeah.
And so when that happens, sometimes people still say, looks great.
Yeah.
I know it's mediocre though. And then there are times where I make something really good and people are like, I don't know if it's good. And I'm like, it is good. And then, you know, that narrative can change.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that really matters in both of those cases though is that I'm getting it done.
Yeah. That is true.
And so if you're, whatever your environment is, if you're working from home and you're not getting it done, you're not communicating that you're getting it done.
Right.
Because that's important. You can't just work in isolation either and be like, no one's heard from this person for a week and then surprise, it's finished. It's like, well, this isn't what we talked about. And so you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to get shit done. And if you're doing those two things, you know, I say, why not? Let somebody work from home or at least try it out or, you know, switch back and forth or whatever. But when people aren't delivering, that's the thing. Like you point back to that and you're just like, you know, the shots aren't there, the buckets aren't there, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, we probably have to have that kind of talk, you know, with our team member a couple of times maybe. Yeah. But hopefully,
for sure,
it will go well. But, so like, I mean, like you're talking about the mediocre work and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, your mediocre work is better than most people's excellent work.
And I mean, I know that that's true. Like mediocre for me means it's acceptable. Like it's not something I'm proud of that I'm like, this is great. But at this point, I think I've learned how to take, you know, polish even some shit into like something decent. And so as part of what you pay for, like when you work with our design team is like, we're going to give you something that's at least acceptable. You know, we want to give you more than that. And if we have more time and more money, we can usually always do that. But like, you're not going to get something that is busted. You know, like I know how to avoid that at this point. Like,
how do you raise, I guess, like, because there is a level to it. Like as a graphic design, like a video and the creative, like there is a level to it. It's not tangible, but it is tangible. Right? Like I can look at it like our junior designer, senior designer, and you, right? Like it's like clearly a difference. But I can't pinpoint that, right? Because like you're talking about like a client's like a, you know, your cousin or your friends, right? And then like a small business and then big time national clients. And then there is a level to it, right? So like what can graphic designer can do to like raise the mediocre levels?
I mean, again, it's one of those things we tell employees here. It's like, I can't ask you to do anything outside of work. I mean, I could, I'm not going to. I'm not going to be like, you need to do this as homework. But you're probably not going to get better if you're not thinking about this stuff. It doesn't mean you need to be doing work for a client, but it goes back to that perspective thing. You have to be looking at a lot of other people's work. And it can be movies that you like. It can be read more books. It can be, even if you're scrolling social media.
Read more books to get better at the graphic design?
Yeah, there's good design books out there. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I mean, yeah, read books, read about like the principles of design, or just read about the things that interest you and the thing that you have to try to do is try to think like, okay, even if it's like a work of fiction, it's just a book you like, why is it good? Trying to figure that out, what makes you like it. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's like there is a science of this to a certain point, and then it stops being a science, and then you like it because you like it. So the science of it for design is like hierarchy. It's like, okay, I'm going to put something big here, and then the second biggest thing here, some small stuff here, smaller thing here.
Yeah.
And I'm leading your eyes around the page. I'm like, I know you're going to see this first. You're going to see that second. Then you'll see like the bottom line logo or whatever. And then you'll read this if you're interested in it. It's composition. That's something that comes from like an art background too. It's like, okay, this is in the left, this is over here. And then I've got this. So, the eye is doing this because we read left to right.
Yeah.
So that's like the stuff that you can learn it.
Yeah.
It takes time, but you learn it and then you start to look for it in whatever work you're looking at. At a certain point though, you are going to have to just lean on your taste and be like, I think this is cool. I like it. And you will get there no matter how complex it is. And so, yeah, you have to unpack stuff. You have to try to understand what makes something good.
Do you think your taste got developed over the years, or like did you always had your taste?
No, it's 100% developed. Like there are some things that you like, but what about the things that aren't natural to me? You have to be a little bit of a like almost like an actor getting into character or something. I don't know. I've never been a fucking actor, but it seems like that to me where like you have to.
You can be actor.
Yeah. Well, you have to think somehow I can start doing those impressions, celebrity impressions. So I think it's one of the things you have to get into character a little bit because not everything is for you.
Yeah.
So if I'm making something and I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be, we had a client who was like, okay, this is for moms whose babies end up in the NICU.
Yeah.
It's like, I couldn't be further from that. That's not ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And
true.
I'll never probably be a mother with like a baby who's, really sick. And so, but I have to imagine what that's like. I have to try to get into like, what would be meaningful to that person, And so if I can start to connect to that, then I can design from that perspective or think about what would look good to that person. There's always going to be the things that I like, which are those characters, those mascots and cartoons and things like that. But that's not what every company needs.
Yeah.
That's not what always looks the best. And so, yeah, you have to be able to, you have to lower your ego too. A lot of designers comes from like an art world, but they're like, it's good, I'm finished, it's done.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think so.
I mean, totally understand like lower ego. I mean, it's like reality check, right? Because like whenever you get better at like a creative, for example, like you're making a video, even like TikTok video. Yeah. There's like, if you spend like a certain amount of time, like I think like study shows like if you spend 20 hours or something, you get to a certain point of like, you get better than like most average person. Learning like Premiere Pro or whatever. You learn how to edit video, put the transition, good, right? Yeah. And then you think you're the like best. Right. Like, oh, I can do this. Like, this looks so good, right? And then that times you have to check the ego. It's like you have to look at somebody who are better than you. Right. And then you look at somebody else's work, and then you just have to check the ego and say, hey, I suck. Yeah, and I 100% agree. I mean, honestly, when you were talking about that, it made me think one of my favorite, maybe not like favorite, but one thing I enjoy is if I'm looking at work, even if I'm just scrolling my phone looking at it, and I see something and it makes me mad. Yeah. Because I'm like, damn, I should have made that. Yeah. That's a good thing. Yeah. Because it's motivating. It's like, I see what's out there. I can see how I can get there. I'm not there. Yeah. But it's possible. But I think it's also like you're mad. That's a good thing, right? Because you could make that stuff, right? But sometimes it's like I get so excited. It's like, I wonder how they did that. No, for sure. I would get curious and then like I research it. That's when you develop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
your skill set. Yeah, for sure.
And if you're not looking at those things, you won't have that experience, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think the studios and the people who make really good work, there's no reason to like overly worry about being original either.
Yeah.
Like originality is nice and sometimes you'll have it, but that's not like the goal.
Yeah.
Is to make something original, not here in design and in video and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's to make it good, you know, and like work, whatever that means for the client. But yeah, you have to look at other work.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
I mean, like, you know, I always in the podcast with asking 2 questions,
Okay.
but like, you know, like we know each other 4 years or so, but like, you know, 2018.
Yeah.
What were you doing in 2018?
I lived here. Had I started here yet? Or was I about to start here? It's so long ago.
I don't think so.
Okay. So I was probably freelancing. I'd probably just finished working at like my first, you know, sort of design job that was, you know, kind of me
Like
working.
a print shop?
Well, so I worked in, a little retail print store, Tree and Leaf, RIP in the plaza for a while. That was great because
Isn't
I
that
got to.
became like a burger store?
Yeah, it's over
That
there right
burger
next
is
to it.
fucking delicious.
Is it? That's good. Well, good. They better be if they're going to take that spot. You have to be. You can't take those spots without being good. So, yeah, they're over there statewide, and then I started contracting with this company called Beagle, who was headed up by 2 wonderful people. One who was a really good friend who has passed away, died, RIP, great person. Learned a lot from him, still think about a lot of the advice he gave me. And then the other person attached to that company was named Elizabeth Maxwell, and she's the head of 84 Hospitality design team now, who does all the work for like
Empire.
the Empire, ramen shop and all of those businesses. So I learned a lot working with those 2 people, and I was a contractor there. And yeah, those were kind of my first steps from being like somebody who was just doing design into really thinking about it professionally, like in a more serious way. I was doing it to make money already, but I wasn't thinking about myself like this is serious, you know? So I think around that time, I was really taking it seriously.
So that time, if you can give yourself advice, what advice would you give yourself 5 years ago?
That's a great question. I knew you were going to ask me this, and I knew I didn't have a good answer. I think it's tough. I'm not somebody who likes to look back or dwell in the past that much, but there is value sometimes in looking back, just because you can see how far you've come, see how you've changed. And so I am happy with a lot of my progress. I think the business side of it, the financial side of it, just understanding like how to take care of the money better earlier I would have gone back in time and been like, invest in Apple, invest in whatever, you know, at that time. Those types of things are really, really practical, but just in a more general sense, I probably would have tried to be more specific about the work that I was making earlier. Like, I now have a clearer idea of the work I want to make, but at that time I was just making whatever just to get by. And I think I'll wrap it into a little story and leave it at this. There's a guy I know who, again, coming from the art world, is a sign painter. He does like hand lettering. He's really good. Like 20,000 followers, does it around the country. You know, for something that niche, it's a good following. And he stopped taking any job that came in. People would be like, "You're an artist. Can you draw my grandkids? Can you paint the family dog?" And he was like, "No." He's like, "I'm a sign painter, and all I do is paint signs." And eventually he curated the types of calls he'd get, and no one was calling him to ask, "Hey, can you paint my family?" or "Can you draw this cool idea I have?" It was just, "Hey, we heard you're the sign painter. Can you paint this sign?" And he was like, "Yes." And so just by like controlling the narrative or the way that people were perceiving him, he started to control which jobs he was getting and what type of work he was making. And I think that's something that I haven't done very carefully. I'm very like interested in a lot of different things, and I'll just sometimes start, what if it was this? What if it was this? And, you know, that's good too, but just committing to something for a little bit, I probably would have tried to do that earlier. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What about how do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hopefully making like 3-4 times as much money. No, either more money or more time, right? Those are always the two big things. I think I'm a pretty happy spot right now, and I like most of the stuff that I'm making, but I know it can be better. And I think a lot of it is to get to that point is going to be bringing back in, like, some people call it like your style, having your style be like really defined and why you're doing it that way. It doesn't mean that I want to like trap myself into making one thing, but I would love to get to a point where like I'm known for like the type of work that I'm making. It doesn't have to be me, but just, I don't want to be doing work that I'm not interested in, I guess, in 5 years,
Makes sense.
So
that makes sense. I hope that will, like, I can help out a little bit.
I mean, no, everything has helped me so far. I mean, I think we have both, like, the type of work that we've done has changed so much over time. Like, we've grown a lot.
Yeah.
I think.
We have been.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, like, we know a long time, 4 years is kind of a long time, but tell me something I don't know about you.
Okay. I think that I've moved around a lot. I love sports. This is that fun fact thing. I just freeze up.
We don't know each other at all.
Yeah, I know. No, you know something. I know. I'm just giving you the most boring, basic stuff. I don't know. What do you want to know? Do you have any leading questions here? Because it's hard for me to.
I guess like that was a tough question, right? Like something.
Yeah, something you don't know about me.
I don't know. I know you like soccer, but like your knee hurts.
That's right.
You like to go to the gym.
Getting old. Yeah, I go to the gym every morning.
You don't really do legs too much.
I've been hitting legs hard for like the last 6-8 months. So we're getting there. Big leg gang. We're rising up. So quad squad. We're on the way.
Yeah.
I think
me and you go to like lunch to talk about girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, I'm pretty relaxed. I mean, I'm fairly open book. I don't have any like deep dark secrets or anything like that. I mean, one thing I wish, we're talking about like 5 years, I wish I could get back into reading more. This is a small thing, but I used to read a lot until probably like, I don't know.
Those Boston days?
That was probably the last time that I was like reading a ton. I mean, I read a little bit, since I moved to Oklahoma City because I've been here like 8 or 9 years now. And so I think the last like 3 or 4 years though, I've like really, my attention span is getting destroyed by the internet like everybody else, or just by being so busy. We're very fast paced, and I want to get back into like being able to just like focus on one thing for a longer period of time. That's not really the perfect answer to your question, but
reading, like, what's your favorite book?
My favorite author for fiction is Kurt Vonnegut. I used to really like him a lot, and my favorite book by him was probably either Slaughterhouse-Five or Breakfast of Champions, and those were really, really impactful on me when I read them. I was probably like 16 or 18 or something.
Is that like a horror story?
No, they're like it's kind of like modern day like Mark Twain type book, where it's like a little bit humorous, but it's like still a serious book. It's like dark comedy, I would say.
Gotcha.
And those were great. For nonfiction, I love reading design books. I mean, I just like books with typography in them. Or I got really, I really got a lot out of this guy, Aaron Draplin. He's a big time designer. The Draplin book was really, really solid. I think he's based in Portland. He's fairly famous. His like claim to fame is the little field notes notebooks, those little notebooks that you see everywhere. He's the guy who like made those popular again and branded them. And what I like about him is that he puts design in like all the parts of his life. So like he loves he has like a little dachshund. So he has like little weenie dog like pins and merch that he makes. It's kind of like if you were going to make stuff for Hazel. And then he like his dad used to be like a Santa Claus. Like his dad's got a big white beard, and so his dad would do like the Santa Claus for photos or whatever. Yeah. And so he would make like funny like pins and stuff, about his dad or whatever. And so just like making stuff that's just part of your life. Instead of making design so separate, it's like he's designing his life.
Huh.
And I thought that was like simple, but kind of profound. It's kind of something that I wish I did more. Sometimes I just like switch off, my brain or whatever. I'm like, power down. I don't want to think. And it's like, I should design more of my life. So
that should be your t-shirt.
There you go.
T-shirt.
Yeah. Design your life. So yeah, there.
By Silva.
Yeah.
Freaking Silva.
That's it. Cool.
So how can people find you, and then what you have any plug or anything?
No, I don't.
up?
I mean, I'm barely doing anything right now besides working here. So look at We Are Frank on Instagram. Go to our website. If you want to look at my stuff, it's freaking Silva. I never post. I haven't in a while. Maybe I'll get back into it.
Yeah, I mean,
knows?
people admire your work, man.
Yeah.
Like, like I've talked to so many people. I mean, clients. I mean, like, it's so, it's like fascinating to me that, a lot of people like look at video work and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
They, like, thank me, or even though like
Yeah.
I'm not editing most
Sure,
of the
yeah.
time.
I mean, it's still your vision.
Yeah,
a
but
lot of
also
times.
like I'm big onto like just try to like say, hey, I didn't edit, like Tim edited it,
Yeah,
or
of course.
Steve edited it, whatever. But like they still, but also like, but client talks to you and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know how many times I heard compliments, and then how you talk to them, and then also that I can see the designers, this team, look up to you, respect you, and
Well,
then like
that's nice, yeah.
it's so fun.
glad.
Sometimes
I
I'm envious of you, man. Like because like a designer is like, well, Steven's busy. I don't want to bother him, but they do bother me sometimes.
Yeah,
Just like, what's going
yeah.
on here? But-
No, I'm glad that I want them to bother me. I mean, it's not always the most convenient way to get work done, but I think that's like the biggest thing, and that's why I'm like enjoying being in a team in general. I don't think I'm the best designer in the state or even in the city for like just making design work, but I think there's more than one way to be good, and I think the thought process and some of the strategy and the way that I'm able to help people understand what their goal can be with design, I think I would put myself up against anybody
Yeah.
for that. And
I
so-
think that over the years, I think I can clearly see like you have more variety of skills and a variety of vision, but most importantly, like I think that your, I guess, people skill,
yeah,
also like managing skill and seeing the project.
it's getting better.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I see so much, growth, and then like those are kind of things that makes me happy, and then
Thank you.
hopefully like you're enjoying it, and
Yeah.
then hopefully like 5 years down later, then we can have this conversation. You're making more money,
Yeah.
I'll
That'd be
be
awesome.
making more money.
We start to pick up some of those clients that we've been in the meetings for, but we know you said you always defer and say, hey, I wasn't the only one working on this. It's like you really are only as strong as your team. And so if we're going to get there, it can't be just you or just me.
Yeah.
Because it's like you can only be in so many places
Yeah.
at once.
So maybe like
Yeah.
you contribute to teamwork.
Yeah.
Post to Instagram a little bit.
I know, yeah. Knew it was coming. All right, I'll do it. All right, here, that's the plug. Listen, if I'm gonna post on social media, everybody has to follow me. Everybody has to start looking at the stuff that I post. You have to get on there and you have to be like, wow, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then maybe I'll buy into it with some consistency.
Yeah,
So,
that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys, everybody, for watching, tuning in to Be Frank podcast. It means a lot to me. A lot of people text me or comments me, about this podcast, and inspiring those people. It inspired me to hear those people growing every day. If you're watching YouTube, comment. Maybe say hi to freaking Silva. Like a comment, all that jazz, and that will help my YouTube. That means world to me if you guys do that. If you're on the Spotify or something like podcast channel, please give us a 5-star reviews. Pretty sure it's gonna help the podcast channel, so please do so. Otherwise, see you guys next Friday. Peace.
that was fun.